Wrap bracelets are among the hottest jewelry designs at the moment. You can make these bracelets out of a variety of materials, and I think that's one of the big reasons that they're popular with people who make jewelry in all different price points. You can use wax cotton cord and glass beads, like with this bracelet here. You can use semi-precious stones and leather cording and a beautiful vintage button here. Obviously, the price point on these two will be very different because of the materials used. The investment of time is about the same. So choose the materials you can afford and get started making your own. The one we worked on here today this is made out of 2mm round leather cord and turquoise. I'm also going to show you how to start the bracelet using Amazonite beads. So another semi-precious stone. This size is a really great size to use, the 4mm. It gives you a bracelet that's a little bit thick, but gives you plenty of room to wrap 3 times around your arm without being too overbearing. So to get started, you're going to need your leather cording. I don't know if you can see that on the black, but basically it's just a round leather cording. You can choose what kind of button you want. In this case, I'm going to use a sterling silver button. The variety I have here, I have a little elephant, a flower, and then just kind of a modern design, a rounded off square design. I think I'm feeling the elephant today, so let's go with the elephant. So to get started, just slide your button on to the cord and divide it, just find the midway point of the necklace, or of the bracelet, I'm sorry. Basically, the leather cord serves to act as the framework for your beads. You can see this here. It's almost like you're creating a little bead ladder that's held up here by the edges of the leather edges here. So to get that structure, we're going to start here with the leather. I'm trying to find the halfway point here. There you go. So now you're halfway. You've secured your clasp. Next thing you're going to do is just tie a nice knot. You want your knot close enough to the elephant that you don't have a big gap that's kind of hidden behind the elephant, but you don't want it right up here on the shank so that the elephant can't move. You want him to be a little, or your button can't move. You want him to be a little free-floating, but still so that the knot is hidden behind him for a nice, clean, finished look. Okay, and then as you can see on this bracelet here, there's actually a clear cording that goes in here. I have chosen to use Supplemax. I like that a little bit better than like just a clear fishing line. It's a little bit stronger so that you have less of a chance of it snapping and breaking, which can be frustrating when you've spent hours stringing all these guys on. You want them to stay where you put them. Typically, I try to do a single piece of the Supplemax to do the whole thing, and that way you're not worried about knotting and trying to get the knots to go through the little bead holes to hide them. So try to start out with, if you can, a length of cord that's about 4 times as long as the bracelet that you're making. That gives you enough. It does, if you're making a really long bracelet, that is a lot of tail and it can get knotted, so just kind of balance that against how much you like or don't like to make knots later. Like I say, try to do it all in one piece if at all possible. Okay, so then when I have my cord, my clear cord cut, the Supplemax clear, I just feed it up here through the knot I made for the elephant. And I'm going to do a double overhand knot. If you want to know how to do that specifically, feel free to look at the step-by-step pictures in the actual text of the book. But ultimately, you make just sort of a standard knot here, but you sort of double dip the tail. So you dip it through the hole once, and then a second time before you pull it tight. A little hard to see with it being transparent cord, but you tie it down. And I'm not going to trim it now. I will trim it at the end when I'm finished with everything. Okay, you also need a big eye needle. This just helps you, one, you can thread your line on it very easily, and it fits nicely through even fairly small bead holes. Okay, now that we have our big eye needle on our Supplemax, all we need to do is string our first bead. Now the first bead is important because it becomes sort of the anchor for the foundation of the bracelet. So slide your bead all the way to the top in between the 2 strands of leather. you don't want it to go all the way up here to the knot. What we're actually going to do is, let's see if you can see this. We're going to make a figure 8 almost with our cord because we're actually wrapping the cord around the leather. So you can see the bead right here is situated sort of north to south with the top stringing hole and a bottom stringing hole. You want to turn that on its side 90 degrees and sort of an east to west kind of situation here. The first one is a little awkward, but once you set that, it'll be much better. So, okay, here I have the cord on top, and then the needle is going to go under and pass back through the bead to secure it at that sideways orientation that we want. So just pull that across. Okay. All right, see how that works? And you can kind of pull up some of your slack here so that it's not as far down here. Okay. So does that make sense? You got it there between the two pieces. Now, when you string your next bead on, see how this cord is on the top? That's great. That's what you want. So you want this to come around here, and your next bead is going to help tighten that first bead. Let me sit that down for you. And we'll string our next bead on, and then you'll see how this row goes pretty